start this off. Who are you?
Well, I'm Carl Hamilton, entrepreneur at a company called Ants.
Okay, so what does Ants do?
Well, we do two things really. We're an IT support company. That's one business where we do IT support and infrastructure for sort of small, medium-sized companies. We take care of about 400 companies in the specifically Stockholm area, but also a little bit in Malmö, Lund, Uppsala as well. And then we also have a recruiting and sourcing department where we've specialized towards software developers and infrastructure technicians. So that means our customers are big companies who have have big development or infrastructure departments. And most of them have both, and have a problem with finding the best people.
So you're bringing a new offer to the market, so that's where we're meeting up today. So could you tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, thank you. I will. I think there's a little bit of background. I think as you know, in Sweden, as in many other parts of the world, we have a real crisis in resources as far as software developers goes, where the demands on software developers just keep on increasing. Yeah. We have, companies like H&M and other, that kind of companies which before they never even hired software developers have now these massive departments of really qualified software developers building big systems to take care of everything from e-commerce to logistics and all that sort of thing. And the business is just growing and growing all over the world. And on top of that, we have all these new startups and web companies that really need the best people. And I think this has made them, Sweden, a really tough market for finding good developers. At the same time, I found that a lot of people from all over the world wanted to come to Sweden.
So why is that? Why is Sweden so attractive?
Well, I think it's interesting you should ask. I think for one, if you look at the IT market, I think we have lots of interesting companies. I mean, that's one reason. I think a lot of people feel that we're quite far ahead as far as development methodology goes, but also sort of what kind of techniques we use. But that's just one aspect. I think a lot of people also feel that, we're talking about an age group here, maybe between 25 and 35, where they kind of they're starting to think about starting a family and that sort of thing, and then other aspects like reasonably peaceful society, infrastructure works well. We have this whole parental leave thing, reasonably equality between men and women, and those issues are often, when I talk to these people, what reasons they want to come to Sweden, it's not so often salary. It's more often these other things. So I think Sweden is quite.
So it's the community, the country, and the tasks that.
Yeah, and also the companies. I think is very. I think they think as a whole they think that there is a sort of better the life equation. You can work out better here in Sweden than it might be where they are at the moment. And of course, this has got to do with the fact that at the moment the rest of the world is in a major crisis, while Sweden is doing pretty well, and especially the Swedish IT industry is doing all right. Suddenly Sweden becomes quite attractive.
So what about how is demand so far for this product, and what's the product?
The product is really we've done a pilot so far, and we did a pilot in the spring where we said okay, listen, I'm frustrated about Swedish companies wanting to hire people, and then when they had a choice between a non-Swedish speaking software developer and Kalle just leaving KTH, they always chose Kalle. And from the beginning you sort of start saying, what the hell is this? They're all racists, but they're not. There are problems with this because a lot of companies have a real difficulty bounding across the cultural and language gap, and the same kind of issues you have with outsourcing. And we met a company called Paragone who's helped us a little bit with this, and they're very good with they've done this for doctors for a long time, and they work with helping finding doctors in other parts of the world and bringing them to Sweden. And when I saw how they could teach a sort of heart specialist from the Ukraine to have patients in Vilhelmina, it took them sort of 4 or 5 months, I realized this is what we had to do with software developers. So we did a pilot together with them, and where we together with our customers, where we recruited 10 developers. They started an intensive Swedish course, not only Swedish course, but also how do you work in Sweden, how does the IT industry work in Sweden, and all that sort of thing. They studied every day, really super tough course, 8 to 5 every weekday, and then lots of home studies, and And then by the middle of May, they started in February, and by the middle of May they were all finished, and now they're all working in Sweden for our customers. And they're most of them are consultants for us, and so it's a very exciting project. And the customer, one of the customers, and the main one, called Tactile Systems, a really exciting company. They've solved one of their major resource problems, and we're now talking about how can we expand this. So for us, this is a new area in some sense. It's a kind of a new way to look at the resource problem, and what we're really selling here is the ability for companies to be able to take in people from really all over the world. Whereas before they've only sort of they felt that it's difficult for them to choose people who really didn't speak Swedish, and there were always issues about culture differences, and so really helping them kind of to overcome that gap. So now we just decided to start a new course where we're looking for another 15 to 20 people, and we're just going to go out with that and this week actually. So we're hoping to get. I think last time we had 250 applications from all over the world.
Great.
And we're hoping to get another go there now.
So where do you see this heading?
Well, I think my vision with this is really that I think we can be 100 people in this area over the next 2 years. So that's an interesting, with all the sort of ups and downs I think we still have we're still trying to find the perfect business model here. But my vision is really to be sort of to be able to solve the resource problem for the major tech companies in Sweden, and I think we together we bring in some other solutions as well, but I think this is one of the one of the key factors.
This has been a natural thing in Silicon Valley, for example, for ages. So now you're bringing this concept to Stockholm, and you're gaining a lot of traction. Yeah,
you're right about that. I think Swedish companies have been. Swedish companies are traditionally quite international, but they're more international as far as sales goes, and they're not very good at attracting non-Swedish speakers. And I think a lot of companies, their telecom I think is one area where they've done better and been more international for a longer time. But a lot of very international companies, tech-wise, when you actually look at who's employed there, they're not very international. They've all been to KTH or Uppsala or Lund, and they've all gone the same kind of education. It's all the same guys, and mostly guys, sadly, which is another problem. But not very many of them, have very international tech departments.
But now the market is booming, and so you're introducing this concept. So how are things going with the consultants out in the projects?
Well, that's the one reason I think we're so positive. That I was there 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, and we had I had individual talks with all the consultants and also with our customers. And I especially remember there was one girl called Merck. She's from Pakistan originally, and I asked her how are things, and she said, "Carl, they're fantastic. Work is good, life is good, and I have all these opportunities. I'm learning new things every day. I can contribute." And I talk to the customer, and they're saying, "Well, now we have, they're all of the developers. They're fully booked, and it's been a success." So that's one of the reasons I think we can lean back now and say this really works. And we're looking to find another 25, well, another 20 people. And it's still driven. I think it's still driven by. The IT industry is still really booming in Sweden. I think we still feel the effects of the major crisis we had in 2001, where all the kind of bad ideas got wiped out, and I think the companies now, they're really making money and making differences, and I think we have a very there's a lot of things left to do, and a lot of growth still out there. So if we can solve the resource problem, we have a really positive. Positive years ahead, even with the rest of the world falling to pieces. I think we can get through it.
Great. So now we have 3 questions we always ask at GameChange. So the first one is, why are you passionate about startups?
Well, being an entrepreneur myself, I feel very strongly about. I think that's where these startups, that's where we find the companies who will make a difference in 10, 20 years. And I think it's really important to foster an attitude of that it's possible to start up companies, and it's possible to succeed, and that's one of the reasons I think it's so important. And I think I go around talking to young people about this a lot, and sort of saying that you've got to start up and you've got to take a chance. And I think starting a company is one of the things where Well, everybody doesn't have to become Spotify or IKEA just by. I think when starting up something, it will lead to something or other. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big commercial success, but you learn so much by starting a company and doing something on your own time and with your own power that's the sort of people that we need in Sweden.
In the Nordic countries, my view at least is that there is a fear of failure ingrained in society, and so what's your attitude towards failure and learning?
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, and that's exactly my point, that I think it's almost impossible to say if an idea is good enough when you start off. I talk to a lot of young people and they say, I want to start a company, well, not necessarily young people, but also people of my age, and they're sort of saying, I haven't really got a good idea, I don't know what to say. And my point is, the idea when you start doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You'll find a good idea. Start doing something, and you'll find something, and then you're going to fail a lot on the way. But it's going to lead to something rather, not necessarily the sort of the best fantastic company, but it will probably lead to something else. Or it might lead to that, but not the first time. And I'm sure that our company is. We're not we're not 100 million at the moment. We're heading there, but there are lots of bounds and ups and downs on the way. And I think we have to be ready to fail, because it's only by failing and then trying again and that's how you succeed.
And now the second question is, what is the best way to kill a perfectly good start?
Well, I think one very good way of killing it is spending too much money on it, throwing too much money on it. I think that's a classic. That I think startups have to be lean and mean for a long time. So I think having too much money.
So when do you put in the money? At what stage of the startup do you think it's a fair stage to put in the money?
I think you have to, when you put in money in something, I think you have to be very clear that it's the money that's going to make the difference.
Yeah.
I think that's very seldom the case. It's almost always something else that makes the difference, and then you don't need the money. So it's in a situation where you see, okay, for some reason we have to do this now, very, very quickly, or blah blah blah, and that's very unusual. It's hardly ever that. If it's a good idea, then you're going to get the money from the customers. Otherwise, of course there are exceptions, but
as a basic
rule, I think avoid the money.
Okay.
And you get all these other things with money. You get all these old men having ideas about how you should spend your time and do things, ridiculous things like that. That's not what it's going to make the difference. It's you. It's the entrepreneur who's out there with sales and meeting the people, talking to the people who work for you. That's what's going to make a difference. Not these old buggers in the board who think they know all. They don't know it.
Yeah.
They're always going to be against the new ideas, and I'm not saying you shouldn't take good advice, because I think that's important, but don't.
But perhaps more in close cooperation with your customers.
Yeah.
And not in a boardroom far off from the business and the value proposition.
You have to talk to customers and know what they want, and that's what's going to make a difference. And I think that's an interesting point there. I think a lot of young entrepreneurs they start looking for jobs and that sort of thing. But I think when you call somebody up and say, listen, I have an exciting idea about a company, people will generally listen. They'll take that meeting, and that's how you meet the customers and so on.
Okay, so now the final third question: why is it game changing to work with ants?
Isn't that obvious, Niklas? No, I think at the moment I think I'm a very passionate person. I think this. The passion I have about solving this resource problem is one of the reasons. I think I made it clear that I think one of the major battlefields for tech companies is going to be resources, and I'm sure that we can help them solve that problem. That if you can win that battle and be able to receive people from all over the world and be good at it, I think that's going to be one of the reasons that you won at the end.
So if I'm a tech company and I want to talk with you, where do I find you?
Well, you can mail me, cj@ants.se. You can look at the website www.ants.se. You can go on LinkedIn, look at my LinkedIn profile. I also say any young entrepreneurs who want to talk, I'll buy them lunch.
Okay.
No.
So I can. Okay.
I promise a good lunch as well.
A good lunch. Okay. Thank you, Carl-Johan, for this excellent discussion, and I'm sure we will hear more about your offer.
Thank you. I'm glad to talk to you. It was a nice discussion, and I look forward to reading the blog. I think it's very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.